Fashion film combines movement, music, and cinema. When I started fashion film, it was around 2010. Not many people were doing it. Most of our fashion was coming in magazines, so the images were this big. My style had always a love for cinematic images, where you have something in the front, in the back, and then you communicate a story. Nowadays, because the formats started to shrink and become smaller, the photography has changed and also is more on your face. It's very direct. I love cinematic because when you create a frame and when the image is large, you can say more things. I was doing a story for a magazine. It was actually a print story. And after I finished the story and we put the story together, I felt that there was something interesting happening. So I decided to put everything in a timeline and run it. And suddenly you would see the actions coming to life. And that was my first fashion film. This was called Insomnia. And it was a great experience. We were in the streets. It was super cold at night. The guys were like freezing. The female model didn't complain at all. She was wearing very tiny dresses, but she was a trooper. Thank you, Cynthia. Love you. And from there, I started to experiment more. Then I was in London and I worked with amazing people and amazing friends who taught me a lot. Lara, Kim, love you. And we did few films with different designers. And to me, I think from the beginning it was very important to create a story. The clothes are important, but I think there are more elements. And that's what I love about it. It's just you have the music, you have the pace, then you have the model, how the hair, the makeup is gonna be, but also it kind of everything has to connect. There are many ways to do a fashion film. You can focus on the garment, like it's a pair of jeans, and you can focus in a mood, like a perfume ad. It can communicate two completely different things in the way you do the production and the post-production and the concept. Like somebody jumping in jeans could give you a lot of energy, a rock and roll vibe. And on the other hand, if you have a dress and you have the model jumping with the dress and you do it in slow motion, it can show you more femininity. My love for fashion film started with the perfume ads. Those were beautiful. And they were telling you a story. It was not just a commercial. Talking about the jeans and the dress, my first experiences were when I saw those films by Avedon from the 70s and for the Calvin Klein jeans, I think 80s as well. There were commercials on TV, but there was something engaging and new. It didn't evolve so quickly because to create a commercial is super expensive. Back then, the structure of like fall, winter, spring, summer, the shows and the collections were twice a year only. But now, like with the internet and the social media and everybody creating faster and faster, you have lots of collections happening all the time. So brands and designers are trying to catch up. I think there is something very important to know and to identify who is the woman of your designer, of your brand, because once you know who is that woman, what she represents, you can really communicate that in many different ways. You can have the rock and roll girl, or you can have the more ethereal girl. And yes, of course, sometimes they can change and they change like humans. But as part of the branding, it's very important to have that very clear, because those are elements that you will use to create a more engaging experience.